The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show. Good day, Bermuda. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we are ready to bring you some feel good vibes this morning. Our feel good topic of the day is the importance of knowing and rediscovering Bermuda's heritage and history. And we will be bringing Rashida Godwin of Titan Express Tours into the studio for that discussion. Our feel good vibe are some birthday shout outs. If you know anyone that's having a birthday today or this week, let us know in the comments. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, let's start with our feel good warm up of the day, which it's Monday. So we have to start off with a really simple question to kind of get you guys into the conversation. And we simply want to know, what did you get into this weekend? And we do have a comment here from Sean Smith. Good morning to you, Sean Smith. Thank you for watching us bright and early. So Jack, go ahead and answer this question as we wait for the audience. Let us know what they got into this weekend.
Good morning, guys. So I decided to enter another tournament. So after happy hour on Friday, I still had work on Saturday. But I kept it chill. I was one of those people that was just like, can I get another cup of ice? So I had one drink and I just kept diluting it because they made it so strong. I was just like, when did I get this age where I'm concerned about my intake? I just love that for me. So
I love that for us because I definitely am like, I mean, this is a little watered down, but it's okay. I'll take it.
I had a gin and tonic. I had a gin and ginger. I switched it up a little bit. So I had a gin and ginger. And I was just like, oh, I'll get a big cup, But I didn't mean like I wanted that much alcohol. So I was just like, hee. So every time somebody was just like, do you need anything? Cup of ice, please. Cup of ice. So I just kept letting the ice melt. I was just watching it and then I'll mix it and drink it. I was like, this is so much better, so much more refreshing. So I did that. And then on Saturday I had a match after work and I actually feel sorry for our opponents because it was my niece and her friend. So we played a little mixed doubles and they were so nervous, but they played so well. And then yesterday I was just on the water, chilling.
Taking in all that sun. So as you're joining in, let us know in the comments what you got into this weekend. Personally, Friday, I did watch our team give Barbados a cutty. I would definitely say that match definitely made my weekend. It set the tone for my weekend to be like, yeah, I'm real proud to be reading now. I mean, I was proud before, don't get me wrong, but I was definitely like super excited just to see that team play. And I will say, because I know we talked about this earlier, one of our earlier episodes when we talked about the national squad when they played against Canada. And it's a completely different team. And I think one of the things I noticed about this team versus the team that played against Canada, like there was a lot more cohesion. I think a lot of the players trusted each other. Like they knew what player would do what or what player could do what. And so they allowed each other to kind of just like be their best selves. And that's not taking away the team that played against Canada. I just feel like they're a little younger when it comes to a team, like being a team, like they just need to learn each other. And I feel like we would have two legit real squads once the other team kind of gets to a place where they're like, okay, I know how this person plays. I know, when to pull back or when to kind of give some assistance. So I really enjoyed watching our boys play on Friday. And just to give you a little spoiler, a little teaser, we will have Dante Laverack on the show this Friday. So if you have any questions for him, if you're going to watch the game tomorrow, do make sure you come back on Friday to see that conversation with Dante, because I'm really excited to talk to him. I feel like it's like the first celebrity. The first local celebrity that I'm like, yes, we booked a celebrity. We're doing the thing. And I mean, definitely fangirling. I mean, I am into sports. I did recently get into football. I've shared it before just through the club structure. And it's really interesting now being an adult, because when I was a kid, it's just like, okay, it's guys playing football, whatever. Now it's like, no, I can see them like doing real stuff. Like they're playing on international stages. Before it was just like the Sean Gooders of the world, the Clyde Besses. Now it's like there's like 5, 6, 7 guys that you can just name off the top of your head that are currently playing overseas in their respective sports, which I think is great. We talked to Kamal last week, or was it the week before? I think it was the week before. Well, we've talked to people that like, low-key local celebrities, and it's really interesting and it's really great, right? For our generation and the generations that are coming behind us.
I mean, apparently I'm a celebrity too, because I had people come up to me on Friday. Are you the girl on the talk show? And I'm just like, what is happening? They were trying to make me sing for them. And I was just like, no. I'm shy.
Very shy. Let us know in the comments what you got into this weekend, because we do have a conversation coming up very shortly with Rashida Godwin of Titan Express. And we actually have some questions of the morning that we're going to get into to kind of get you ready for that conversation. And I did want to share another thing about my weekend that was really interesting. So as y'all know, I talk about the ferry all the time. If you follow me on social media, I love the ferry. I love Corona, my ferry, and Georgia, the ferry. Corona is my favorite for obvious reasons. But Georgia is also one of my favorites because I spent a lot of time in Atlanta. And I was telling Jackie before we started the show that on Saturday, it was really interesting to see, like, because there's a lot of boats. Jackie mentioned she was on the water on Sunday. And the ferry has a schedule, right? The schedule is very basic. It's very simple. It's usually on the hour for like 3 hours. They take a break and then they're back for another 3 hours. It's really, it's not spontaneous. It's not going to catch you by surprise. And there was one of those big charter boats just on at Old Boys Point, docking up, getting their passengers, and then, allowing them to get off. And they were there for a good 15, 20 minutes before they actually ended up leaving. And I felt like if I was the pilot, I would have like been like super bossy and just been like, no, you can't park here because you're making it very difficult for the ferry to like maneuver. I mean, it's not like a bike or a car where you can like, make it work. The steering on those things are very difficult. And I just felt like it was really inconsiderate of those charter boats, because I get it. You do need to get your money. I'm not trying to take that away from you. But like, pick a time when the ferry isn't necessarily running to make it a little bit easier for yourselves, so that people don't like look at you like side eye.
If your whole party's not there, just sit out in the water and wait for them to show up, especially if you know a ferry's about to come. Because it makes no sense. You get in there, loading half the people, coming off the dock to allow the ferry access because they're doing construction or something there, because I see all the yellow tape. And then have to bounce back on. The ferry literally comes in. They're there for like, 3 seconds? They barely tie off. They come, they hold the rope, everybody goes on, they hop back on, and they go about their business because most people are already there. I've never seen a ferry actually stand or sit around waiting for people. You're either there or you're not, unless it's a lot of people sort of waiting for all the people to get on. But you usually see that up Rockaway.
Right.
Because I see fast ferry, it's a lot more people trying to get on. But Darrow's Wharf, it's like 3 or 5 people. So just let them out the way, go, and then come in. And you could take it 20 minutes to get on, which is still too long. Your party needs to be organized, where it's just like boom, 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 and go. You're not wasting time.
Exactly. And then we have this comment here from Michael Anthony Mustin. He says, when is Jackie playing her tennis match? When's your next match, Jack?
So I actually have a match tonight at 8 p.m. It's supposed to be with a birthday boy, but it's his birthday, so I'm not sure if we're going to make it happen or we're just going to try and postpone. But I have a match tonight at 8 at Bermuda Gate, but they're not really letting spectators in because they're trying to keep it to that 50 limit thing that government has implemented. So, yeah, even though it's a lot of space to spread out and social distance, we still have to follow protocol.
Oh, that's good. Well, that means tomorrow we're going to be checking to see if Jackie won her match and how that went. So do remind me in the comments if I forget, y'all, to ask Jackie about her match. So we're going to get ready to bring Rashida Godwin into the conversation to discuss all things Bermudian history and heritage. We're going to talk about the importance of knowing it for one, and then rediscovering it. But before we get into that, we're going to play a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
And we're back. I do want to just bring in this quick comment from Sean Smith. He said over the weekend he did hubby duties with his wife while his wife slept in. So that means he cooked, he made breakfast. Well, he cooked breakfast, he washed clothes, etc. So shout out to Sean Smith and all of the other husbands in the world that give their wives some days off, because they absolutely deserve, period. So we're going to go ahead and bring Rashida Godwin into the conversation right now. Good morning, Rashida.
Morning, ladies.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us this bright and early time in the morning. We want to go ahead and get the conversation started. We want to get you to let the audience know, what is it that you do and what is it about the Titan Express Tours brand that you love?
Well, I co-own a transportation and tour company. It's called Titan Express. We have 6 minibuses. And most times we do transport and tours, even for the cruise ships, hotels, and large groups, because we could move over 100 people at one time. But I also offer what's called the African Bermuda Dispersion Cultural Tour, which is an African diaspora tour here in Bermuda. And that right there is, I really enjoy doing that very much, because it we share the history of, in the early centuries of how Black people came to Bermuda, and as they continued their life in Bermuda, what happened during this time.
Now, before we get into how much history you know, I just want to ask some more questions about your tour. Like, where do you go? How long does it take? What can those people that are participating in your tours expect as an experience?
We really go all over the island. We go everywhere. We have a walk into St. George's called A Long Walk to Freedom. I think Terri did that one. And we also have a tour called the Religious Freedom Tour, Freedom in Quotes. And we do that one with the Cubs Hill Methodist Church. And we also take them to the enslaved graveyard that's still up at the rubber tree up there that many of us drive on, and we have no idea that Black people, enslaved Black people and free Blacks have actually been buried up at that graveyard for 300 plus years. And many of us drive on the graveyard, and we have vendors there and everything. And, we're trying to ensure that story gets pushed out. We also have a city tour in Hamilton that's called the City Freedom Tour, which is also a great tour. That one's really popular with families and schools. And it's a really nice beginner's tour. And we visit Bars Bay Park, a bit of Mary Prince, also Sarah Sally Bassett sculpture, and we share their stories. And we and even now we have a tour dedicated just to Mary Prince, and we share her story of emancipation and her contribution. And we're also doing a tour with the Friendly Societies in August.
And before we get into the next question, Jack, I did want to say, because I have done the St. George's tour, and I've also done the Cobbs Hill tour, the Religious Freedom tour. And I can say the walking tour, well, y'all know I love to walk. The walking tour was really great, because I used to live in St. George's. And when I was going through the tour with Rashida, for me, it was really interesting, because I'd lived there, I'd walked these streets, and really just didn't have any idea of how much history I was walking on. And just like some of these structures that I would pass, like those were landmarks that I would tell people, like when tourists would ask for directions, like those were landmarks I would give them. And now, in my 30s, I realized that would have been a great opportunity to like give, a little bit more Bermudian history to the tourists, outside of just saying, okay, well, to get to Tobacco Bay, you go up to the unfinished church and then you walk over the hill. Like, no, I done some of these tours, or just been exposed to this while I was in primary, middle, and high school, it would have been easier for me to be a Bermuda tourism ambassador, right? Because I would have had just all of this information just at my ready. So I did want to say that if you haven't experienced any one of the Titan Express tours, I highly recommend those two that I've been on, and I am looking forward to the two that they have coming up in July and August because I'm definitely going to be going on them. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah.
I want to come because I haven't done any of them. So I'm sitting here listening to how we're walking and driving on graveyards, and I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like how our ancestors just, I feel like we're forgotten. We just got paved over, and it's as disrespectful as it feels. I'm so happy that you're doing tours so that we know this, because that's part of my questions. Because Terri and I were talking about 2 weeks ago about how in school we don't know our history. We know American history, world history, but we don't know our own. We probably did half a semester. So that leads to me wondering, like, are you working with government or our schools to try and get this type of history a part of our curriculum again?
Somewhat. It's a bit tough because we have to remember, I always have to remind folks and even the teachers that, they are teaching a Eurocentric education system. And my tours are African, and we are very unapologetic about it. I do it also with the gentleman, Ajala Amadele. And so we don't do white savior in our tours.
Good.
And so in the schools, and we have been working with Cedar Bridge, so I have to give props out to the principal up there, Mr. Caesar, and even Miss the lady that they had of the social status department, Miss Keena Crawford Anderson, and she did bring us in actually for 2 years, which was good. We didn't go this year because of COVID, and we took the children on a whole entire tour of the island. We had them for the entire day. And it was so interesting is that, many of the children, the teachers couldn't understand why they were enjoying it so much. I mean, for one, they're outside. And then secondly, they're learning about stories about themselves and people that were like them. So they're not in the school learning about white folks or, I'm not being disrespectful about the Holocaust and there's different things. They learn about our Holocaust, which was really the great Ma'afa of what happened, the great disaster. And I also share with them a bit of even African history of like the resistance in Africa during those times as well too. And just to clear up a few things. So, we take them and we engage the children very much. So with the curriculum, it's I guess it can get to that point at some point, but it's going to be, it's going to be a lot of work. But I always tell the education department, I meet with them often, and I tell them that I am up for the task. And I let them know that it is going to be a lot of work because it's changing mindsets, not just but it's also with the educators and the teachers as well too. And it's difficult because it is uncomfortable stories that we're sharing, but people need to learn to be uncomfortable for a while in order for us to progress.
Absolutely. Jack, before we get into our next question, I do want to remind the audience, if you have any questions for Rashida, or if you have any comments, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I actually have this comment coming in from Sean Smith. He says, as the rubber tree is government-owned land, they should put it into a park instead of it being a car park. That's what I'm assuming he's trying to say. What are your thoughts on that, Rashida? Like, because as he mentioned, it is a government-owned property. What are some other ways that you think the rubber tree that space can be used to honor our ancestors?
Of course, they should put that story there because, I mean, the story is there to say that it is an enslaved graveyard, but what's not mentioned is like the real history of what happened there. We had free Blacks who bought the land, and they had been buried there because the church across the street, they were attending St. Mary's Church, but during that time at St. Mary's Church, they were not allowing, the Anglican churches were not allowing Blacks to be buried in the graveyard during that time. So the Blacks purchased the land across the street to bury the enslaved and also the free Black people. And this happened from the 1600s, and the burial ground was not closed until the early 1900s. And so that's 300 years of bodies being buried over there. And so, that story needs to be told so it could, help trigger people's consciousness to say that, wow, this is a burial site for 300 years and we're driving on here. I'm not exactly sure what people should ever do there, but like I tell folks who even come on the tours, my job is, I believe, is just to ensure that the stories stay alive and I share the story. And then it's for mostly you folk to continue on with the torch and make the changes that need to be made because I cannot do it all by myself.
Absolutely.
Well, collecting history, recording history, all that stuff is exactly why we have this show, because that way it will live on. So it would be nice if they could put up like maybe a plaque. They have enough space to put up monuments and stuff. So it would be nice if they can actually do something like that. So if you don't look into it, I will. But I want to go back to you. You mentioned Mary Prince. You mentioned Emancipation, and you have some tours coming up. Can you just elaborate a little bit more about what we can expect for those tours?
Well, Mary Prince, she was the first. She was born in Bermuda, and she was the first enslaved Black woman to actually give her enslaved narrative to the Anti-Slavery Society in London, England, just before emancipation was to come about. And so I really enjoy sharing Mary Prince's story, because she, her story is really much about just resistance and just ensuring that, because she could have been murdered, and there's many instances where she really could have lost her life and we would have not heard about her story. And just sharing with folks the importance of changing the holiday last year from Sir George Summers Day to Mary Prince Day, because some folks have even been on the tour and they just were like, why are we always got to be changing these days? And they just say stuff because they just really didn't understand, or they just don't know. And so we ensure that when you leave that tour, you truly understand why the importance of Mary Prince, her contribution towards emancipation, and why it's fitting for her to have the holiday during emancipation, of which we call Cup Match, the second day to be named after her, and to remove Sir George Summers, because as I tell many folks, every single last one of those folks that were on the sea venture was Sir George Summers, including himself, even though he died, very shortly after he arrived in Bermuda. But the historical records have him indicated in slavery and moving Africans to be slaves over to this side of the world. And every single last one of these white folks that were on the sea venture, they were enslavers here in Bermuda. So we cannot have them a part of the Emancipation Cup Match holiday.
Absolutely. And I actually have a question here that we were going to ask the audience. So while we're getting into our next question, I do want the audience to let us know in the comments, in what year did the second day of Cup Match become known as Mary Prince Day? It should be really easy or simple, or it should be top of your mind because it's a very recent year. So before we get into, I did want you to also speak a little bit more about the Friendly Societies tour, because you did mention that you do have that one coming up in August. So if you could go into a little bit more detail about that too.
Yeah, well, as noted throughout the history, especially for Black people, we always had constant tyranny upon us every time we tried to make progress throughout the historical time that especially we've been here on this side of the world, and here in Bermuda too. So many folks, I try to tell folks, even though we may see things happening in the US, there's pretty much those same things happen right here in Bermuda as well too, but much light is not brought to it. So as we come about in emancipation, which was August 1st, 1834, and then we had the holiday cup match that follows it. Immediately right after the Blacks received emancipation here in Bermuda and they became free people, that came from the British government. And so, but out of that, the British government only paid the enslavers. Those enslaved Black people did not receive anything, so they didn't have anything. They were still in abject poverty. And so we have an organization of free Black men who were business owners who came together, and they formed what was called the Friendly Young Men's Society. And they used to meet and come together to ensure that those newly freed people were taken care of, during that time, because even after emancipation, then it went into segregation. And, it was just constant. And so someone needed to be there for the Black people on the island. And it was the friendly societies that were there for the island, for those folks, and not the government at that time. And many of the friendly societies, even folks today, have been educated. They started, paying for young Black people to go away to university. Most popular to go away to school was many of the teachers and nurses and different things like that. And they had made such a huge contribution. And actually, they were also the ones that started the game of cup match, because the lodges would play each other. The lodge in the West and the lodge of the East would come together and play each other. And sometimes that was only the one time in the year that Black people throughout the island actually even saw each other. So their story needs to be told, and it cannot die.
Absolutely.
I do have one question, and it's nothing I actually read out, but because you're saying that you said that on the tours you're very unapologetic. You don't do the white savior thing, and I love that type of stuff. But I always wonder, like I was sitting here wondering, I'm like, I wonder if white people have taken your tour and if they've ever tried to push back, because I've seen in instances where I've gotten in arguments, healthy debates. And I just want to know, like, what have you experienced white people on your tour, and how do they actually receive the information?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, they come all the time. We do I have had a few that have pushed back. One was at Sarah Sally Bassett's sculpture. One lady, she disagreed, and she said, well, that was the law that time. So she poisoned these people. So she committed a crime. And, I explained to her that, and it's good. That's why we have to always go, especially as Black people, when we share these stories, we have to ensure that we share our facts and not our biased opinions. And I said to her, for instance, even if my bus driver who's driving the bus here, he just decides to take you right now and you never get to see your family ever again. Is that okay? Even though that's the law, like a law was passed to say that he could take any woman he wants and go anywhere. And she still was just like, yeah, but I didn't. But we tell her that in that the slavery was the crime, not that Sally Bassett poisoned this fix or anything. Slavery was the crime. They took her God-given freedom, and so the crime was really committed against her. She didn't commit any crime against anybody else.
So
changing people's thought process.
Yeah, I love that. It's because people don't actually go out looking to educate themselves. They just wait till it comes to them. So I love that some people are still trying to get out there and educate themselves. But switching gears slightly, so a lot of our streets are named after certain families, and obviously a few of them will be named after those who enslaved our ancestors. Do you think that we should push to try and get some of those streets changed, like the names changed?
I think so. I mean, I've had young children, and it's so interesting. I love having the young children on the bus because they pick up things so quickly. And on the Mary Prince tour, I had to talk about the Trimminghams because they actually earned her father named Prince. And I shared that part of the story. And I had a young little man, he was only about 8 or 9 years old. And he said, oh, wow, so that's why Trimmingham Hill is called Trimmingham Hill right there. And he picked it up and he said, we got so many streets named after the enslaved people. And he was 8, 9 years old. And his mama she was blown away. She was like, wow. And that's why I like our young people, because they have no biases. So they just get it. And they just was like, well, that street, it just shouldn't be named after people like that. They were really bad people.
I agree. It's a constant reminder. It's a constant reminder of, us being, well, not us because we're here, but, ripped away from our families and dragged across the seas. So with us talking about emancipation and Mary Prince, I do want to come back to that. What is one fact about our emancipation as well as Mary Prince that our audience, our public should know? Like one thing about each.
Well, many of us, we like to go to the game. It comes up and we're always saying cup match. But we have to remember that before cup match, there's emancipation. The holiday is emancipation. It's based on the Britain putting forth here in Bermuda. They abolished the slavery throughout the British overseas territories in August 1833. And the Black Bermudians received emancipation on August 1st, 1834. And that's truly what the holiday represents. And these are folks that have been enslaved and worked for free on this island for 200 plus years. From the 1600s right up until 1834. So we can't just constantly always talk about, St. George's, Somerset. It's great, and it's great to enjoy in these festivities, but it's also to ensure that all of our households, every single last Black Bermudian household or household period, if you enjoy cup match, you need to ensure that you share just even one sentence one story and just go outside and just, or be inside and just honor those ancestors that truly came before us, that created this festivity that we do have. And with Mary Prince, it's the same, because it was her story that was actually used to petition Britain's parliament, put as a petition to Britain's parliament to start to put an end to slavery throughout Britain's overseas territories. And so these stories are very significant. Unfortunately, we have many folks who want to still write in books and be historians and say that slavery was benign in Bermuda, and that's an absolute lie. Slavery was not benign in Bermuda at all. But the only way we could truly know these stories is if we do just a little bit of research, not much, because I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't feel like reading and different things like that. But it's important that, because you have to know your history in order to know where you are today and where you want to go forward in your future. Many of us, people could come to us and tell you anything if you don't know your history. Like I said, one thing about folks like the Jews, we all know about the Jewish Holocaust, right? We know about those horrible things that happened because they will never, ever let us forget. And we have what was called the Great Ma'afa that was part of the transporting of African people over here to be enslaved. That happened for 400 and 500 years. We should never, ever let those stories die. Never, ever. Our children should know it in and out. Everybody should know that in and out.
Totally agree. And I actually want to come back to a comment you made around like what we should know about emancipation, because we have a question here from the audience. Sean Smith, he asks, what are your thoughts on if the friendly societies decided not to play cricket, but to reconnect to our African roots, religion, etc., to celebrate our emancipation? So I feel like you may have touched on it a bit, but if you can go a little bit deeper on like what are some things that we can do, maybe this cup match, to bless you, to
sorry,
no problem, to like Sean Smith said, to celebrate our African roots.
Right. Just like I said, just learn about your history. Most of it's there. It's the book called Cyril Otterbridge Packwood's book, Chained on the Rock, Slavery in Bermuda. There's a lot of information in there. Mary Prince, her story is in a book called The History of Mary Prince, a West Indian Slave. A lot of stuff that we could just come together with our families. The friendly societies don't involve themselves in the cup match like that. That's why it got handed over to the clubs. And that's what we're also going to share with the tour, because actually we have two gentlemen who are still a part of the friendly societies today. They're going to share the friendly society history within the tour when we do the tour with them as well too. And really the emancipation, you could celebrate it however you want, know. But what happened was it eventually just got handed over to the clubs. And we also have to remember, along with that, is that Cup Match, the emancipation holiday, it didn't become a holiday until over 100 years later. Many folks think that after August 1st, 1834, then August 1st, 1835, it was a holiday. No, that was a day that the Black people took in Bermuda. Many of them lost their jobs and they made sacrifices. But it didn't become an official government holiday until 1947.
Oh, that's crazy. Like when you think about like how we think things move slow now, like imagine back then, they just took the day. They said, we're not waiting for the government of the day to give us this holiday. We're going to take it. So Rashida, as we wrap up, for those that maybe want to participate in the July tours or the August tours, or they just want to learn more about the offerings that you have, can you let us know how they can get in contact with you?
They could go to the website, because you could book it right on the website. It's TitanToursBermuda.com. That's TitanToursBermuda.com. If they have any difficulties or they have any questions, they could give me a call on 234-1096. Some dates have sold out for Mary Prince and the Friendly Societies. So if you guys are really interested in booking, I would say book it right now, because it seems like as it is getting closer to the holiday and people see the flyers going out and different things like that, they are booking, and they're booking not just 2 people, they're booking groups of 5 and 8. Like they are really bringing their families and stuff.
Wow. So that means Jack and I did hurry up and get on it.
Yeah.
Can we try a private one?
Yes, you can as well too.
Okay.
Yeah, I do private ones. Yeah.
good.
That is awesome. So thank you once again, Rashida, for joining us this morning to share the importance of knowing and rediscovering Bermuda's heritage and history. We hope to see you. Well, not we hope, we will see you for one of the tours this month and next month.
Great. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate you guys having me on this morning. And thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you coming on the tours. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You.
Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. So before we find out your thoughts on today's episode, our conversation with Rashida Godwin of Titan Express, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
As Jacky and I get ready for our Feel Good vibe of the day, we do want to know, let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts on our conversation with Rashida Godwin of Titan Express? Do you plan to experience one of the upcoming tours in July or August? I know Jacky and I have already made our stake and claim we're definitely going to be experiencing both tours. But Jack, what are your thoughts on our conversation with Rashida today?
We have to have it again because there's still so many questions, there's so much information, and the way she was just laying out information, she is so knowledgeable, and I just want to connect with Rashida a little bit more. Might have her over for, some tea or wine, whatever, but sit up and just listen to her, just let her talk and get that information out there. But I also want to go on her tours as well. But I'm excited for the tour.
Absolutely. We actually have this comment here from Sean Smith. He's saying, great show, ladies. Thank you, Sean. He says her tours should be mandatory for all schools to take. And I agree. I think that partnership with Cedar Bridge, I'm hopeful that it continues this year because I do get it, Hill Penny outside. We just can't be mixing and mingling the way we used to. However, I would say that would be an opportunity for the schools to figure out other ways to get that information out there instead of just doing the walking. I love a good field trip, but just finding ways to make those groups smaller so that they could still continue it. I would hope that they do continue it. And I think at the high school level, it is really interesting because you do kind of feel like, okay, you're a little bit gone. Like you're not that interested in history if you're not that interested in history at that point. But as she mentioned, as you learn about your own stories, you become more interested. So I definitely agree with Sean's point that it should be mandatory in schools. Absolutely. 100% agree. My thoughts are, I'm excited. I loved the 2 tours that I took already. And when I saw the flyers for the July and the August tours, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely doing that. So before we get into today's Feel Good vibe of the day, we do want to remind you that there is no Daily Hour today. They will not be live at 8 a.m. The Daily Hour team are on vacation, but they will be back tomorrow. But that provides you with the perfect opportunity to rewatch any past episodes that you haven't missed, because Jamal is famous for bringing those trivia questions related to the episodes. So do make sure you catch up on your Daily Hour. Now let's get into today's Feel Good vibe of the day. Jack, you want to take it away?
So we have some birthday shout outs. So I don't know if you guys actually put something in the comments, but if you know anybody's birthday, let us know. But we have Darren Woods that's turning his big 35. And then Ashley Lendy, I still call her Ashley Conyers, but she's married now. So Ashley Lendy, she goes 33. It's her Jesus year. So I'm super excited for her. So happy birthday to those guys. I hope you have a great day and had a great weekend.
Absolutely. And every day you can let us know if there's someone's birthday so that we can include them in the Feel Good vibe of the day. Or you can email us, engage@gooddaybermuda.com, to send us any suggestions, any shout outs that you want to give. We would absolutely take them on and we will do them right here live for you. We do hope that today's Feel Good vibe of the day has you ready to make it a great one. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jacky Lambert. We trust we'll see you tomorrow for another Feel Good conversation. Same time, same place. Until the next episode. Peace and have a good day, Bermuda.